Hello there everybody, Sabata92 aka Nightmare, and welcome back to Rose Guns Day Season 3. Holy shit, Yuki. Oh, Meishu. Yeah, that date that she had with, that did not go well. It was honestly something that I was expecting to happen sooner or later, but damn. That shit hit. It fucking hit. So I'm a little bit worried about how, I don't know, I'm wondering how, if it's possible that they could possibly patch up. But, I don't know. It does have me considerably concerned. I'm just, I don't know, a little worried. One of the meeting rooms in the occupying forces headquarters was a mess. Countless American soldiers were carrying in cardboard boxes, packed with papers, meeting desks, and blackboards. A massive map of City 23 was on display. On it, the bases and areas of influence held by all of Primavera's crews were drawn in detail. Next to that, pictures of the faces of Primavera's executives were laid out in a pyramid with red lines connecting them. Oh shit! At the top was Madame Rose Hayabara. To her right was Consigliere Richard Maogi. Below Rose was Grand Boss Cyrus Saimura. As you traveled below him, it radiated out into the bosses of all the crews. Oh god, it's basically a hit list, isn't it? In the same way, face shots of the GDS executives were posted separately, with Sun Shilong at the top, and the young execs, Meiju included, beneath him. The once bleak conference room had been reborn as the secret planning room of the anti-organized crime team led by Gabriel. As he looked at all the materials posted on the wall, Butler was amazed at how well researched they were. If you know this much, you hardly need me.
That's not at all the case. It's vital to have information from someone who's acquainted with them, has even connected with them privately.
Nothing private about it. This is all my official work, Major.
Their personalities, hobbies, patterns of behavior, family relationships, and friend relationships. There's no such thing as too much information. Of all the paperwork brought into this room is bloodless. You are the one who will finally bring it to life. Almost like a baby swan waking from its sleep.
Don't tell me. You mean to do your job for real?
My job is eradicating organized crime, after all.
Oh shit.
It's very easy to imagine the feud between Primavera and the GDS influencing the GHQ's rule of Tokyo.
You must be joking. The GDS maybe, but Primavera? It's just a slightly disreputable citizens' organization led by a dreamer girl who prattles on about ideals.
Bill, let's put a stop to all farces between us, seeing as how we both despise them. Know that you will be punished if you break this rule.
Uh-oh. I haven't been punished since I had my ass hit by a teacher's cane in school.
In the first place, I reject the whole concept of a necessary evil. I don't feel any need for organizations such as Mafia to exist.
Oh, really? They can be pretty useful.
Oh? And what use can they be?
When your superior's birthday is coming up, you just make a single phone call and they can get him a birthday cake, a bed, and 3 naked beauties.
According to my information, you received 3 women on your last birthday that requested to have a bust size over 90.
Holy shit!
Or was it 5? Forgive me, my memory on the matter is vague.
Wait. Really? Guess I'm no match for you, Major. Apparently, Gabriel had been secretly investigating City 23 for over a year. This dude's been doing his homework! the GHQ, feeling threatened by the rise of the Caleb family at the time, had probably been secretly investigating City 23 since then. Surely, the subject of their observation had switched to Primavera after that. They had probably investigated on their own, knowing that the City 23 occupying forces HQ was deep in bed with Primavera. Butler hadn't wanted to believe it at first. Butler, yeah. I thought I said Battler for a minute. But this man probably did have actual evidence of Butler's corruption. However, he still couldn't level accusations against Butler, because Butler had evidence of corruption by important people in the GHQ. They're basically kind of at a stalemate. By now, Butler was getting into the habit of showing a negligent attitude, somewhere between exasperation and resignation. Gabriel couldn't kill him, but he was stuck in a cage from which there was no escape. He couldn't play dumb or confuse the issue. He was basically at the point of saying, whatever happens, happens. Butler wasn't the only one in this situation. The high officials in the occupying forces HQ, from the Director General downward, had all been profiting from their positions. All of them were being forced to live with the sensation of this man's cold knife at their necks. By now, no one in this HQ could talk back to Gabriel. He had even announced he would postpone his punishment of them as long as they didn't get in his way. Even the Director General had to avert his gaze and quickly walk away whenever Gabriel was around. You know, this is something that I feel like I should have been paying attention to this entire time. Like, Butler has effectively gone out of his way to help out an organized crime syndicate. Like, it's because I care about these characters so much that I forgot they're a fucking mafia. They're part of the criminal underground. It's because I care about these characters so much that I actually forgot that one fact. And this moment is actually realistic, almost realistically portrayed. This is such a level of corruption in this American military that they had to send somebody out to take care of it. And this guy is almost equally corrupt because he knows that they're corrupt and he's gonna use them. That sense of just like, I think that's one of the reasons why I like Rose Gunn's Days so much. Because it gets me so invested, even in some of, well, this guy too. First off, he's fucking Kameda, for crying out loud. But second, I want to know more. You know what I mean? They had petitioned GHQ officials with whom they had corrupt relations for Gabriel's dismissal, and they searched for other weaknesses in various limited ways. But all their efforts ended in failure. This man's history was as pure white as fresh morning snow without any wounds or stains. He's basically he's a pitch-perfect soldier with no dirt on him. An excellent record, irreproachable conduct. He was an elite among elites who had received several awards. Given that, they wanted to find a weakness among his relatives, but he had no family. His only relatives were on his mother's side. That mother came from a famous family line, which included senators and governors. He had no weaknesses. It's true that bad people are good at trapping good people, but there's no way to meddle with a good person so fastidious that he doesn't have a single stain on him.
You see, I hate the Mafia.
Maybe you should try throwing some dots at those villains on the wall.
It seems in the upper echelons think.
It seems
It seems some in the upper echelons think, like you do, that mafias can be useful if properly tamed. But to me, the Mafia are an absolute evil, like Satan. I believe they are a wicked group that must not be spoken to, much less negotiated with. Which is why I say Deus Vult to the heretics, and I wish to purge them in a holy crusade.
What?
I am confident that sending them from this earth to hell is an absolute mission given to me by God.
Do you have a grudge against the Mafia or something?
Yes, I do. You see, I want to stain these hands red with Mafia blood. After all of my accomplishments and efforts until this day have been for the sole purpose of achieving that goal.
Aw, come on! That's a spicy joke for such a pretty face.
it most certainly is not a joke. I may use my authority in any methods that I please to destroy criminal organizations. Do you realize how hard I worked to get a chance to hear those words?
This guy's serious. Maybe the fastidious nature brought about by his good upbringing had caused him to ruthlessly despise the dark side of human society. He's a... what's the word I'm looking for? He literally is wanting to go on a holy crusade. He's basically a crusader. This Gabriel Kaburaya was serious. He hated the Mafia, and he stated truthfully that he didn't mind staining his hands with blood if it meant destroying them. And Butler can't even try to warn them. For the first time, this man made Butler shudder. Butler had looked down on him for being apparently a well-raised rich kid, but that wasn't right at all. This man only seemed to have a well-bred, fastidious beauty because he was so straightforward. Filled with an absolutely straightforward madness that made him want to murder everyone in the criminal underworld. Butler's old instincts were warning him. They warned him against ever dealing with such a man. Oh, that's right. If you want my superior officer, I'd definitely run for it. Jesus. This guy's got Butler scared.
Bill, I am aware that you are not a good person.
Well, I'm just a money and boob fanatic.
That is good. Now we can finally speak honestly. Villains who do not admit to being villains are ugly. You have finally become beautiful.
So, given that I'm not a good person, what happens next?
As you yourself claim, you are a money worshipper without doubt. You love money.
Isn't that the same as justice in our capitalist USA?
True. Changing policies to maximize gain is the justice of our fatherland. So I want you to follow the rules of that justice.
Oh?
I want your assistance in my task. Though that will mean betraying the mafias you have colluded with up until now. However, I can give you more profit than they can. Therefore, is it not just that you betray them and obey me?
You're telling me to betray Rose-chan and the others? Don't tell me you feel love or friendship for her. Well, you know, love with a lady of the evening is always an illusion.
I can say confidently that aiding me in my task will bring you profit. In the same way, I can say confidently that I can bring you unimaginable losses if you disobey me.
Guess I'd rather not imagine what sort of losses those might be.
Still, this is an order. Obey me. Though if you're wise, you ought to realize that your wings have been clipped.
In Japan, we call that being a crab on the chopping board. Or was it a Crassius carp? Or a tuna?
I believe it was the koi fish. Anyway, not a very elegant metaphor, so I choose to avoid it. Ah, yes. Have you heard what they whisper sometimes in their criminal underworld?
I just realized I'm starting to give this guy an accent.
That the human world is controlled by 3 forms of power.
Pretty sure someone told me somewhere along the line. Influence, wealth, and force, right?
I find it an interesting concept. It does have a sort of logic to it. No one would serve a king without influence. No one would serve a king without wealth. A king without violence would also be served by no one.
Pretty funny that people wouldn't listen to him even if he had wealth and influence.
Might that not lead us to the conclusion that violence alone is enough?
Huh. That's... Oh my god, I do not like this expression. I don't know if he's done it before, but This expression from Gabriel is just... Ugh, I don't like the feeling it's giving me right now. Huh. That's right.
This anonymous underworld fable appears, at first glance, to argue that force or violence is just one of the elements that compose society. But in actual fact, it includes the implication, known only to them, that the violence alone is enough to control the human world.
True. Violence is the strongest. If Truman, Rockefeller, and a punk with a handgun all got into a fight, even a kid could guess who'd win. A president, a petroleum king, and a punk. The victor would be the one with violence on their side. Knowing this, the man with influence and the man with wealth would use their respective privileges to gain the protection of the man with violence. Humanity has given birth to many privileges that can be described numerically and in writing. However, in the end, none of those can stand up to violence. They can only be exchanged for violence by hiring bodyguards and buying weapons, protecting the user by showing off their superior violence to their opponent.
Violence cannot be allowed because it always turns negotiations in their favor. Going back to your example, Vice President, Petroleum King, and Punk.
God damn it, get away from the freaking terrible German accent. I can't do that because it's offensive. When the punk pulls out his gun and says, "I'm gonna kill ya," what will the president of Petroleum King do? They would probably negotiate, offering to share the privileges they possess in exchange for the punk's naked violence. The president would probably ask to be spared in exchange for making the punk's dreams come true. The Petroleum King would probably ask to be spared in exchange for whatever sum of money the punk wanted. However, this deal would not take place on an even playing field. The punk with the gun possessed the right to accept or deny each proposal, or raise the price or anything else. If his anger was so great that he didn't even feel like negotiating, the president and the Petroleum King would die just the same as anyone else.
That is why violence is anti-civilized, inhuman, and unforgivable. It's simply survival of the fittest. Life at its most bestial. In fact, the power of Satan. It's a grave sin against God and humanity, one which denies the entirety of our cultural history. Wiping such people off the face of the earth is a mission God has given to humanity. Going against this mission is not to be tolerated. I'm sure you're already aware of how sinful these criminal organizations are, with violence as their only source of power.
Yes. Of course, sir.
Very well.
Good God! Don't scare me like that! Hey, Alfred. My bosom buddy!
Oh, long time no see. Nice to meet you. You always bring me such interesting stories.
I've been looking for a chance to wring money out of Primavera for so long. I've been planning all this time, hoping to help you, my dear friend. Really rake it in. Though Davis had never thought of anything of the sort, he spoke shamelessly.
Primavera really did a number on me. I lost everything, started from square one, got money, and finally it's time for revenge. Thanks to you, it looks like I'll finally get a chance to teach them a lesson.
Just like he had done in the old days, Alfred was now surrounded by henchmen and radiating a boss's aura. Of course, his force wasn't large enough to be called a family, but it was still something Primavera couldn't afford to ignore.
Those merchants are all fools. They all fell for my spiel. Hook, line, and sinker.
Lincoln speak, wait, don't you mean line? Yeah, goddammit. Now, unless they keep me happy, Primavera will never be able to set up their distribution association. But by the way, about our respective shares, we did say we'd split the 8 million, 40-60, but that didn't cover expenses.
Oh, sorry. That's not what I came to talk to you about today. You see, Richard has decided to negotiate with me directly. And it feels like that is going very, very, very well. So we are going to negotiate here now. Please move on to a different hideout, Kay.
I see. Well, I'd better not show my face around those Primavera guys right now.
In the car out front.
You got it. Well, then I'm counting on you. Once you show up, they'll definitely pay up.
Sure. Bye-bye for now, my friend.
Huh.
Well, I wouldn't have minded if you let him join us.
I've proven that I possess the article in question, yes. I will now return our merchandise to the vault until our negotiations are complete.
I see. So scum is scum after all. So that's why no one trusts you. This is weird. Richard and Wayne slowly appeared from the shadows. They had been shown Davis clearly. In that way, Alfred had proven that he possessed Davis. In other words, the negotiation table between them had been set up. Richard had brought no one but his driver/guard, Wayne. As skillful as Wayne was, Richard had arrived practically undefended. Alfred approached the table covered with bottles and cigarette butts, then violently knocked everything off of it. That sounds about right. Then, he patted the tablecloth as though it were hanging out to dry, strained it, and humbly motioned for them to be seated like a waiter. Well, that's nice of him.
Of course, that attaché case is filled with money, yes.
Of course. Would you like to check? Wayne, if you would.
Wayne set the heavy attaché case he had been holding on the table. When he unlocked and opened it, it became clear to everyone that it was packed with bills, laid out as beautifully as tiles. Then he held it out in front of Alfred.
Oh. Oh. That's a bit surprising.
What is? You're the one who said he wanted money.
Well, yes, of course that. But I'm just surprised to find you so obedient. The Primavera I knew was a stronger family with more backbone. I'm happy, and a little sad. A strange feeling.
A man's heart is a complicated thing. I understand, my friend.
Remembering how we ran wild in your club really takes me back.
That was fun. Though Alfred had been wiped out in a flash thanks to Leo Shishigame's actions. Before that hero had appeared, the relationship of threats between the Alfred family and Richard had continued for a long time. They had known each other for a surprisingly long while. At first, Richard has shown his understanding for the need to pay them money. And Alfred had viewed his ongoing relations with Richard as a way to make them pay bodyguard fees. Since each acknowledged the other as negotiation partners, the atmosphere between them when they were alone was surprisingly friendly. And I like that kind of. In the end, when Madame Rose had made her decision, their relationship had changed. However, up until then, they had met several times for under-the-table negotiations, and had an old, inseparable relationship. Of course, that friendliness was only in the mood, and their interactions had never left room for actual friendship to blossom.
Seeing that you're willing to hand over so easily, this distribution association you're planning must be quite the money tree.
Obviously. It means we'll single-handedly control all distribution throughout City 23's Japanese colony. None of the merchants will be able to disobey us. Moreover, we'll be able to rake in money by simply moving things from one place to another. Have you ever heard of such a delicious prospect?
Oh, I'm surprised. It seems you've become quite the bad boy, haven't you?
Wayne was just as surprised as Alfred. Establishing a distribution association was supposed to be a defensive technique to ward off economic invasions against their countrymen. Madame Rose had absolutely no intention of using it as a way to squeeze money out of her countrymen. But Wayne didn't let it show on his face. He figured it out quickly. This was Richard's style of negotiation. Negotiation means convincing your opponent. In other words, it means stepping into their ring. People who could sympathize with Madame Rose's ideals could be convinced simply by hearing about them from Madame Rose herself. However, that would have absolutely no effect on villains who broke out in hives whenever they heard so-called cheap talk. In that case, to convince a villain, you had to step into that villain's ring. Wrapped in the evil aura of City 23's largest mafia's consigliere, Richard calmly spoke his immoral part. That's Richardson for you. That's why you're our consigliere. And as Wayne was applauding inside his head, he saw the white cue card hidden behind Richard's hand and smiled wryly.
By the way, Alfred, there's one thing you seem to have misunderstood.
What?
We did not bring money here because we wanted to make a deal with Davis.
Ooh. Bad boy. I see. So you're offering to pay me more than my share if I hand over Davis?
Practically speaking, Davis was demanding that Primavera pay 8 million Japanese dollars. Alfred's share was 60% of that, 4.8 million Japanese dollars. If they offered Alfred more than that, he would have no reason to support Davis. Of course, Alfred had been fully aware that such a deal might be proposed. He had indeed made tons of money from deals Davis had brought to him. However, he had long since realized that Davis was simply trying to force on him a situation that had gotten out of hand. Like, Alfred might be crazy, but he's not stupid. I think. If he could gain enough money, he'd sell off that swindler in a heartbeat. Alfred had been thinking it was about time to do that.
There are 10 million Japanese dollars in this attaché case.
Oh! That's enough super big money to blind the eyes.
4.8 million had now become 10 million. Perfect. They were apparently running out of time. It was probably worth it to them to resolve the problem with the amount of money, instead of letting things get worse. He wanted to wring even more out of them, but that was a good number. It was more than enough for the price of that swindler.
Very good. The deal is complete. Mr. Degawa, you've been sold to Primavera.
Please wait. Actually, the amount of money that we are willing to pay for Davis Degawa is only this much.
What?
Richard pulled a single stack from the attaché case. Then he pulled a single bill out of that stack and set it before Alfred.
Scum like him is hardly worth any more than this, wouldn't you say?
$1,000? What a waste for a man like that. Oh, feels like I should be offering you some change.
Oh my god.
When they saw their boss laughing happily, his underlings started guffawing too. Richard laughed as well, so Wayne decided to match the mood and laugh too. Oh my god. When the laughter died down, Alfred shrugged and patted the stacks of bills in the attaché case.
So, what are the remaining 999 million for? Wait, what? Sorry, I forgot how to math. What are the remaining $9,999,000 for? Don't tell me you plan to take it home with you.
Alfred, we're through talking about Davis. Now, let's talk about you and me.
Oh!
Both now and in the past. No man in City 23's underworld has been feared as much as you. Even Caleb never dreamed of controlling City 23 until your downfall. Because of that unique style of speech, you haven't been appreciated at your full worth. But you are without a doubt the strongest man in City 23.
I'll take it you're excluding Leo Shishigame.
And strength aside, your courage is remarkable as well. You fear no one, no matter who they be, and you are always willing to even go down in flames, taking them with you.
Yeah. If there's one thing that's commendable in some regard to Alfred, he's got balls. He will not back down. No matter what situation he's in.
How could one describe you except as the ideal man of the criminal underworld?
I never thought I'd hear compliments coming from you. I see. So you're asking me to join Primavera? My apologies, but I won't. That's definite. It will not change.
I know. You would never join Primavera. I know how you feel.
Oh?
What did Richard understand about him? Alfred seemed filled with interest. However, Richard didn't answer and slowly lifted his gaze to the ceiling.
Come to think of it, among the many creatures of the criminal underworld, has there ever been someone as honest as you? Even before joining Primavera, I came across many people as a money lender. People lend, please lend me money. I'll definitely pay you back.
A big man came crawling to him with tears in his eyes. Richard explained all the conditions and lent him money on an agreement of mutual consent. However, that money never came back. Before the day was out, he had already run away in the night.
Please lend me money. I'll definitely pay you back.
A woman with a child came crawling to him with tears in her eyes. However, she had no means of repaying the loan, and Richard had discovered that she had repeatedly borrowed and ran away from other lenders. Richard refused her, recommending that she seek care from public institutions, but there were apparently some circumstances that led to her firmly refusing that. In the end, the woman denounced Richard as a cold-hearted monster and burned herself to death in the middle of the street.
Jesus!
The child she had with her was now missing. If he was still alive, that child might be around 7 by now. He might show up someday with a handgun, thinking of Richard as the man responsible for his mother's death. Such nightmares had tormented Richard at times.
Oh. Deciding whether to trust people or not is the most boring gamble.
I agree. Do you trust them or not? Worrying about such a thing has no end.
Alfred nodded seriously. To Wayne, this was a bit unexpected. So, even Alfred sometimes worried about his trust being betrayed.
After that happened multiple times, I found a certain standard by which to measure how trustworthy a person is.
Interesting. I'd like to hear it too.
It's whether that person is honest to themselves. How straightforward their lifestyle is. In this world, there are too many people who change themselves whenever it's convenient, calling it the trick to living wisely. They cross between benevolence and hypocrisy, depending on their current mood. There are sometimes good people, and sometimes bad people. Too many people can easily switch between the two. If you criticize them for their wrongdoings, they claim to be good people and grow angry. And when you ask them to do good, they deny being good people and call themselves realists.
And when you try to treat them like realists?
Then they sob and call you heartless, emotionless. And when you decide to lend them money just this once, poof, they're gone.
I hate people like that too.
That's why you don't like Rose. You're sure she's just another hypocrite. You're sure it's just cheap talk. You want to expose her for what she is. You want to rent her true feelings out of her. That's why you want to stand against Primavera.
No. It's true that I thought that once, but I don't now. I've watched her these 2 years. I was sure she'd be exposed sooner or later.
About ready to give up? I surrendered long ago. She's serious. She is serious when she speaks about the future of her countrymen.
Rose-san is no more or less than she seems. If you told me she really was an angel, I wouldn't doubt it.
For the first time, I agree with Mr. Wayne. Same here. Right now, I truly can't believe that Madame Rose is a human who craps and vomits like the rest of us.
Alfred chuckled. Richard did too. Watching this, Alfred's underlings were a little surprised. Alfred was a man who used even laughter as a weapon of intimidation. The more he laughed, the more terrifying he would look when he yelled at the end. They had seen this happen over and over again. However, right now, Alfred was truly laughing in agreement, without any intention of threatening his opponent. After all, he was speaking with an exec from an opposing family. They were hesitant and surprised at this behavior, which they were seeing for the first time. Seriously, this novel does a damn good job making you change your opinion on characters on a dime. I mean, Alfred's still a terrible person. But he's three-dimensional in some regard. And I'm happy. I'm happy. I like three-dimensional characters, okay? I mean, one-dimensional is okay every now and then, but I admit, I have a soft spot and I really love 3 dimensions.
Good people should act good, and villains should live like villains. I find people who cannot stick to one thing with conviction truly detestable. That's why I cannot hate you. I've even come to think of you as a man worthy of respect.
It's not bad being flattered by the consigliere of the great Primavera family.
Because you are so straightforward, I can understand your heart well. You won't join Primavera because you can't accept Rose. And for one more reason. You want to fight Leo Shishigami again, don't you?
Alfred's confident expression went stiff for a second. However, it didn't seem as though his anger had been aroused. It looked like a kid who'd had a parent see through a lie of his for the first time. Oh yeah, he definitely wants to go have another fight with Leo. I can understand that.
Why else would you have returned to the criminal underworld? You want to cross fists with Leo again, so you won't join his side. That's how you truly feel. It's your straightforward, unadulterated intention, which is worthy of respect.
Alfred laughed so hard he fell from his chair. He laughed and laughed. Then he shook his head several times and slowly shrugged. That's right. He had been waiting for Leo to return, just as much as Rose had. On that day, they had communicated with their bodies as men. His heart, which he had assumed could never be understood by anyone, had certainly been understood by Leo alone. He still hadn't forgotten the speaking of the soul on that day.
If you become my friend, I can give you a chance to fight when Leo returns.
Richard's son.
He's a flexible man. I'm certain he'll be willing.
I should have done this in the beginning. Wayne shrugged. Richard was certain. Alfred's feelings towards Leo were close to longing. Of course, it wasn't like he wanted to go out with Leo and enjoy their reunion. He meant it in the way of lone wolves living in the criminal underworld. He probably felt exactly the same as Wayne. After being seen through so easily, Alfred shrugged as though giving up.
I can't hide anything from you. That's my friend for you. I see your long acquaintance counts for something.
Alfred, this time, shall we truly become friends? You are a proud man who holds his flag high above his own territory. I could never force you to undergo the humiliation of lowering your flag and raising Primaveras. You should remain Alfred of the Alfred family. You wouldn't be you otherwise. Remain yourself. I want you to remain as the man I respect most, who is straightforward and always stays true to his convictions.
Richard.
Isn't it time for our relationship changed from reluctance to open friendship? You don't need to join Primavera, but I want you to become my friend. Primavera will not harm you. You may build up your castle of villains as you please. I want you to use this money to reconstruct your castle as a sign of the friendship between you and me.
In other words, you want me to form an alliance with Primavera?
I told you, Primavera has nothing to do with this. It will be based on our personal equal feelings of friendship. Brother.
Incredible!
What's going on?
So, basically, our boss has been acknowledged by Primavera's Consigliere.
That Richard Maogi is dealing with our boss as an equal brother?
If this had been a conversation between mere punks, it would be a joke. However, when it was Richard and Alfred, two big names in the criminal underworld, it took on a whole new meaning. This is still... Wow. Alfred slowly rose and crouched down in front of the pile of bottles and ashtrays he had knocked off the table earlier. Then he took out an unopened wine bottle that was rolling on the floor and set it at the center of the table.
What have I done? My mind's gone blank at this sudden love call. It makes me think becoming friends with you wouldn't be so bad. However, I would like a little time to settle my heart on this. Sorry. Even I think it's embarrassing that I can't answer you right now.
I don't mind. You are you, but you are also the boss of the Alfred family. You probably need to hear the thoughts of your underlings as well.
Richard calmly looked at the men surrounding him. However, their answer was clear. After all, the top family in City 23 had come calling with incredibly favorable conditions. After all, these underworld dropouts who hadn't joined Primavera had been guaranteed equal status. They all had red cheeks, like a Cinderella who'd just been proposed to. The next moment, Alfred's lightning-fast knife was out of his pocket. Wayne put his hand on the gun in his pocket at the same instant, but then he stopped. It certainly was a knife, but its blade was folded down. It was a multi-purpose knife. Right now, the corkscrew was extended instead of the knife part.
As fast as ever, I see. You haven't lost the touch.
Please wait for my answer on whether I become a friend or not. But right now, I feel like sharing a drink with you.
I would be happy to. You should join us, Wayne.
I'll be in the car.
Oh, Mr. Wayne, I didn't know you were old enough to drink. I'm an adult!
This time, everyone roared with laughter, even the underlings.
Alfred dexterously removed the cork, then put the bottle to his mouth and drank. Then, after a big gulp, he handed it to Richard.
I never thought a day like this would come. Life is funny.
I agree. Living and building a future is such an amusing thing. Cheers.
I never thought I would ever see this. This is fucking amazing. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. A car stopped in front of the park. Richard was the one who came out.
Oh, please take the money back to my office. Good work today.
I can't believe Alfred didn't take the money. What?
He's a faithful man. Even he has a cute side to him, don't you think?
Alfred hadn't accepted the attaché case with the money. That money was supposed to be a sign of their friendship, so he said he couldn't take it while he was still pondering his answer. Wayne had half to believe that crazy Alfred was a lizard in human form. He wasn't a person you could even talk normally with, much less become friends with. That's what he had believed. I never imagined you'd be able to sweet-talk that crazy man. I guess this is the power of money. Or is it because of your talent?
Not at all. It's because of Yuji.
Oh, he spotted Yuji and Stella among the kids playing in the park. Wayne never paid Yuji much attention, but he remembered him well as the baby who could do nothing but cry 2 years ago. However, Yuji was now playing in the sandbox with all the other kids. He was able to display his self-will, take action on his own, annoy Stella, and even make her laugh. To Wayne, it had just been 2 years. Nothing in particular had changed. However, to a baby, those 2 years are so incredibly packed. couldn't help but sigh in surprise.
During these 2 years, it's become clear to me that knowing how to take care for children is helpful for knowing the human world. You think I'm just talking about how to care for a baby? Not at all. Why is he crying? What doesn't he like? Why is he happy? And what does he want from me? There can be no greater training for interpersonal relations than trying to make sense of a baby's ahs and oohs and gees and hogyas.
And this helped during today's negotiations?
People are children no matter how old they get. Especially if they're single. When you're able to understand how children feel, you naturally become able to understand how even adults think and how to soothe them.
Huh. That's Richard's son for you. Treating even crazy Alfred like a kid.
Then, you also learn how meaningless it is to make enemies. When I was alone, it didn't matter how many enemies I made. However, that changes when you're able to protect someone. If I had taken Crazy Alfred's invitation to fight and started a feud, what if he had tried to steal the thing most precious to me in revenge?
I don't even want to think about it. It's so easy to attack and cause harm. But in these 2 years, he had personally experienced how hard it was to protect, especially when protecting someone other than yourself.
As you gain more things that are precious to you, you become less able to pick fights. And then, naturally, it led me to thinking that I'd rather have Alfred as a friend.
Richard hadn't sought friendship with Alfred for some tactical reason regarding the underworld balance of power. Part of him truly wanted to repair his relationship with Crazy Alfred. That was why Richard's proposal of friendship had Alfred so flustered. As a villain among villains, he had seen the eyes of scum many times. For that reason, he must have sensed something in Richard's eyes that he had never seen before. Do you think today would have gone badly if you hadn't raised Yuji-kun?
I believe so. You will probably be blessed with a child too someday. Then, you'll understand.
Though I doubt a wild alley wolf like me will ever find a partner. Oi! Wait till you meet your grandson! Sorry. Sorry.
Everyone says that when they're young. Even Stella has been saying it wouldn't be so bad to get married lately. Find love, young man. It's about time I started hearing your stories.
Well, he did go on to have 3 kids, though.
What? Is that true? What? So Wayne gets married?
How else would I have gotten born? What, did you think I sprouted out of a potted plant?
No, not at all.
Even Wayne managed to get married.
Well, I still don't even have a boyfriend. A policy of bachelorhood is the final rebellious stage young people have, and one they ought to get over quickly. In other words, even he became an adult in the end.
When Toritsugu brought in tea and mentioned that Wayne had had 3 children, Julie was astonished. Which meant, actually, there was one question she had just had to ask. Who's the mom?
So, Wayne, no, I mean Advisor Udera. Who did he end up marrying?
Well, that's something I can't just tell you directly. What a shame. And if you'd registered with my invitation ID, I'd be able to tell you.
I will, I'll do it soon. So at least tell me if the girl's shown up in the story yet.
And at that moment, there was a knock at the door, and the person in question's voice drifted in.
Adam, forgive me for interrupting while you're talking.
Too bad, Julie. That'll have to wait until later. Ah, dang! Advisor Udera, why'd you have to walk in then?
I'll be taking my leave then. I'll be taking my leave then. What I'm gonna try to do is since Wayne and Taratsugu, I'm giving them the same voice. For Wayne, I'm gonna go with a lower pitch, and for Taratsugu, I'm gonna try to go for a higher pitch. Kind of what I've been doing with Butler's voice and Charles's voice. While I gave Charles the higher pitch and I gave Butler the lower pitch, I'm just trying to expand it a little bit. I know they're the same voice, but I can at least try to make them sound slightly different. The emphasis on slightly. If Alfred agrees, then we practically have Davis on the cutting board. Wayne's car sped off. Stella had already noticed Richard's arrival.
Didn't you have work today, brother?
I just finished. I just happened to be in the area, so I decided to drop by.
Concilier, isn't it a little bit dangerous to be out without guards?
Oh, who might you be?
He's a new friend of mine. He says he's with Maurice's son.
Oh, from battalion. Do you have the day off?
It's my job to get called by them whenever it's convenient for them.
That sounds difficult. I'll have to tell Maurice to show some consideration for his subordinates.
Yuji seemed to be totally comfortable around Keith. Though Yuji was supposedly shy, he treated Keith like family. Because he saw this, Richard wasn't suspicious of Keith, even though they were meeting for the first time.
Come on, Yuji. Papa's back. Say welcome back, Papa, okay?
No!
Yuji-kun, if you say welcome back, Papa, Papa will be happy. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. When Keith tickled Yuji, the kid giggled and wriggled and grabbed onto Keith's leg.
Yuji, it's getting chilly out. Shall we go home?
No! No!
You still haven't played enough?
I'll play! I'll play! I'll play more! Yeah!
He really likes you. He looks forward to meeting you at the park every day.
Oh, that's sweet. For a while, Yuji sumo wrestled with Keith's leg, but the sandbox suddenly caught his attention and he ran away. Finally released from the child typhoon, Stella sighed.
He really is fickle. His interest shifts from one thing to another. He keeps getting more self-centered. I'm barely hanging in there.
When you try to feed him, he says no. When you try to change his clothes, he says no. He keeps saying no whenever adults say anything. Even though he used to be so obedient.
I hear that's called developing his self-will. When they're born, they're nothing more than animals that eat and sleep. But then, they get self-will. I think it's incredible.
I hear this guy's had to take care of little brothers in his hometown, all of whom were much younger than him.
Our family had a lot of kids. For me, it was just normal to take care of my little brothers while carrying a baby on my back.
That explains it. I was noticing how good you were at playing with Yuji.
I love kids, after all. They hold the chance to make any dream come true. It's so much fun to imagine the limitless future for these kids.
I agree. And it is both exciting and worrying to wonder how these children will grow and what sort of future they'll face.
That's what I love about kids. With these kids, I'm sure we have a good shot at turning this crappy country into one where neighbors truly help each other.
Children are the treasure of a nation. I understand that now.
Even though he had been clinging to Stella and Keith so much a second ago, Yuji was now happily engrossed with playing by himself in the sandbox. I almost said shadows. It was tiring to hover about him all the time, but it was also a bit lonely to see him start playing off on his own. Sheesh. His energy really is inexhaustible. Lately, Stella had been busier than she'd ever been before. At night, she attended association establishment meetings as Rose's representative, and she played with Yuji all day, every day, caring for him. With every day so excessively busy, Stella might have been wearing out a little. Her long hair, which had been once cared for diligently, like it was a work of art, had now become damaged by the sun and dirtied with dust. However, her smile shone more brightly than any she had worn as a lady of the evening. I don't like kids, but I can understand that, such innocence like that can bring a smile to a bunch of people, and it can probably be a very wonderful experience to some people. Just forgetting all of the stress, forgetting all of the bad in the world, and being able to witness such, good kids legitimately having fun without a care in the world. It allows them to kind of vicariously just forget all of the troubles and all that. So, I think I can kind of understand that. And again, I mean, I don't like kids, but I can kind of understand that. As the three of them gazed at Yuji, they sat down on a bench. That's right. There was something I wanted to ask the consigliere.
That depends on the question, but ask away.
I totally respect what Madame Rose is aiming for. After all, the old Japanese spirit of mutual support was a lie. It was all fake.
What harsh criticism.
They called it mutual support, but it was one of the old folks swindling the young. They were envious of the diligent and successful. And when we didn't stand side by side, everyone else was ostracized. If you stepped forward, they'd push you, and if you were too slow, they'd still push you. They were just jealous, scornful, worst parts of humanity. That's what the Japanese truly are. I've experienced it so much, I'm sick of it. He says he had a really rough time in a Siberian prison camp. He saw betrayal by his countrymen, ruthless treatment, and the deaths of several young people.
Oh, sad. And did that lead to you losing hope in your countrymen?
Less losing hope and more being disillusioned. Well, everything turned to ash, you could say. That's why it was basically a relief when the great disaster occurred and that whole world was crushed. Then, Madame Rose appeared, and she's trying to build a society where people truly help each other out. There's no one who cares for their countrymen more than that girl. You always hear company presidents and politicians say they'll raise wages, but none of them have been able to do it. That girl has made that dream come true, and without any thought of personal gain.
Though unfortunately her efforts were crushed by outside forces who were not immune.
But Rose didn't give up. Right now she's trying to build up ramparts to hold off those outside forces. America, China, Japan. She's trying to take that three-way deadlock with one clear loser and skillfully manipulate it to bring stability to the city. I'm sure now, after working close to her, I should have started helping her sooner. I'm ashamed of myself this past year, complaining that she was so hooked on playing gangs with Brother and Cyrus that she never helped out at the club.
The Davis problem will be resolved soon. Once the association's establishment has been decided upon, the weight should be lifted from Rosa's shoulders.
I won't humiliate myself like I did that day. All the documents and numbers have been beaten into my brain. I don't care whether they're American or Chinese merchants. Not that I'm in charge of this. I won't let them make me quit.
Of course. The Maogi siblings are ready. We will most certainly bring about the result Rose desires.
Huh. You two are surprisingly fired up. Thought you'd be more cold.
Negotiations are fistfights with words. Even Rose has stepping into the ring and firing off sharp word jabs like everyone else.
Exchanging those fiery word jabs while simultaneously delivering cold, ruthless joint attacks is the Maogi siblings' specialty.
As long as Japan's side remains united, there's nothing more to stand in our way. We'll quickly get our act together and let everyone know that the last one to come aboard definitely stands to lose.
Oh. You're pretty cool when you're fiery, Stella-san. Both of you respect Madame Rose from the bottom of your hearts, don't you?
But of course.
Please talk to Rose yourself if you get the chance. No, I mean, you should definitely talk to her. Otherwise, you won't know how serious she is.
Well, I'm just a single foot soldier. But still, yeah, if I get the chance, I'll do that. After all, I got a chance to meet someone as incredible as the consigliere. Of course I wanted to talk about this.
Come to think of it, you had a question for me, didn't you? Well, let's hear it. What is your question?
This ideal society Madame Rose is aiming for. You really think it can be made real?
Of course it can. I mean, we're going to do it, so it can be done.
It is possible. That I can promise you.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't doubting that. It's not what I meant. I mean, will this ideal society be there for us to see while we're still alive? Stella tried hard to respond, but she had trouble sorting out what she would say. It rose to her lips and was then swallowed down several times. As Richard watched this, he grinned and answered.
If you're asking that, then I believe you've already reached an answer.
Then here's a different question. Will Yuji-kun be able to see that ideal society?
I would like for it to come true during Yuji's generation. However, I'm not so optimistic as to believe that it will happen. I hope that I can entrust our ideals to Yuji, so that it will be passed down to our countrymen in the future.
Yeah, that's the most truthful answer.
What we're doing right now is not building an ideal society. We're making preparations so that our countrymen of the future will inherit the will, power, and privileges necessary to take up that job.
I see.
That is my honest answer. Did you find it unsatisfactory?
Huh? Not at all. It's the other way around. I didn't think you'd talk about it so honestly. After all, there's a lot of swindlers out there these days talking about fake ideals. As he said this, Keith rose to his feet. I once thought the Japanese should be swallowed up by the Americans and Chinese and disappear. But that thought's gone away completely.
How could we ever let them swallow us up? That's yet another reason why we must help each other as we live.
We must make the people understand that this is the only way to protect our culture and traditions in the future. We must not be destroyed. I am certain we will be reborn as a resilient Japanese people and survive.
Yeah, if we got destroyed now, that wouldn't be any fun. I'm starting to think it's worth fighting one more time. Pave the way to the future for those kids playing over there.
Thanks, Keith. I feel the same. That's why I quit as a lady of the evening. After quitting, I've been thinking. It's so boring to work only for your own sake. Now, I'm living life to the fullest. Because I know how wonderful it is to be able to fight for our future countrymen. And for Yuji.
Yuji and the kids playing in this park. They are that ideal society of ours, where people help each other. And I am certain that they will pass on to their future countrymen the strength and resilience needed to avoid being swallowed up by formidable foreign powers.
I've decided. I've just made the big decision that I'll stick with Primavera forever. Sometimes, I've sort of thought I might get won over by some other group offering better treatment. But starting today, I've decided to work for Primavera alone.
I'm glad I'll get a chance to continue working with you. I'm sure Rose will be glad as well. Thanks.
I feel the same. It's an honor to have such a promising comrade. Come to think of it, I still haven't heard your name.
It's Keith Kisaragi. I've been doing some bid work with Captain Butler lately. I sure hope word of it's reached your ears, Consigliere.
Oh, that was you? I have heard of it. Maurice introduced you as their most talented sniper.
A sniper? Now there's a surprise. You're an expert with guns?
Well, I did hear you were the best sniper among the 7 heroes, Stella.
You're joking. That rumor's a lie. Leah would be laughing at me.
Keith, it pleases me to hear such reassuring words from you. Allow me to thank you in Madame Rose's place, as Consigliere. I'm glad I had a chance to speak with you. I would like to speak with you again if the chance presents itself. However, is this meeting of ours a coincidence?
I guess you figured it out. I did meet Stella-san and Yuji-kun here by coincidence. Then I figured if I stopped by here regularly, I might get a shot at meeting the consigliere someday. I'm pretty ambitious. I was hoping to sell myself a bit more, make it big, and start raking in the dough. Keith scratched his head and laughed without any trace of shyness. Even though he'd been plotting something dodgy, he confessed openly. Then suddenly changing attitude was atypical of Keith.
What an honest young man. I can't say I dislike your sort.
Great. I get pretty serious about the kinds of people I can get along with, and those I can't.
Very well. Once your current job is finished, why don't I invite you to the pasta gathering in honor of your service?
The pasta gathering? You mean that rumored meeting of Primavera execs? Well, it does seem to have become that somewhere down the line.
At the moment, being invited to participate in that is considered Primavera's highest honor, I believe.
And I'd like to introduce you to Rose and Meryl.
If you can form an acquaintance with the other bosses, your status in the family will rise. You should be able to find better treatment and better jobs.
Damn, Keith raising up in the world. Normally, the pasta gatherings can only be attended by those of crew boss status or higher. However, people who were being granted a special honor would sometimes be allowed to participate just once. This sort of special invitation to a pasta gathering was like receiving a medal in Primavera at that time. The bosses would be forced to honor the one whose participation had been granted and acknowledge their status. Of course, this meant the bosses would get a chance to see them up close, which left plenty of opportunity for advancement. In some cases, it was even possible for people to be transferred to a different crew, where they would be given a higher rank. Even those 3 wandering dogs who had once been granted this honor had now moved on to separate crews where they received special treatment. Oliver had regained his lost respect in the wild dogs and was now serving at Wayne's side. By now, he had been entrusted with a section of Wayne's turf, becoming a mid-level leader with subordinates of his own. Damn right. Charles had been transferred to the Rich Bamboo. While working as an apprentice dealer, it was said he learned several things behind the scenes as the boss's pet project. His talent had been acknowledged by those around him, and it was hoped he would grow to someday serve as the boss's right-hand man. Nina had gained respect within Meryl's faction and was now allowed to serve as an attendant to a famous high-class girl, where she repeatedly came into contact with executives. Also, it was rumored that she was Madame Meryl's confidant, and she had enough respect that no one made fun of her dialect anymore. Good! I'm getting fired up. Hope we learn where our target's hiding soon.
Fear not. We'll learn his location shortly.
Is this a conversation I should pretend I never heard?
Oh, it's about that Davis Digawa. This young man and his partner Alan Kuhn are experts in battalion-style negotiations.
Would these negotiations happen to come with the pop of a champagne cork?
Ah, I like that metaphor. Now there's a former woman of the evening business for you. Even your examples are fancy. So, a pasta gathering as a reward. I can't stop shaking with excitement. Wonder when we'll hear about that hideout.
Alfred's a plain man. I doubt it will take long to hear his answer. At best, it may come tonight.
Oh my.
Mama! There's Mama!
What could have happened? Yuji had suddenly started crying. Apparently he had fallen and scraped his knee slightly. Stella and Keith rushed forward and Yuji jumped at them, grabbing onto their legs. They calmed him down, getting his spirits up and saying it wasn't a wound worth crying over. Richard couldn't help but smile at the scene in front of him.
Keith, if you're interested, would you mind coming to eat with us now?
Yuji will be happy. Please come if you want to.
Thanks for the offer, but I'm on call for that job right now.
Well, I believe the first news of that will reach me before it even reaches your boss, yes?
Oh, right.
Did you hear that, Yuji? Big brother Keith says he'll eat with us.
Yay!
Yuji-kun, I'm gonna put my life on the line fighting for you.
Thanks to Yuji, we 3 single people have found a family.
It's all thanks to him. Thank you, Yuji. Sounds like we even get to eat together today. Pretty cool, huh?
Keith!
Oh my god, that was cute. Oh. No, don't load, don't load, don't load. I want to save this. Oh my god, that was so cute. How are you gonna ruin this for me? Okay, so a few things happened today. First off, we got to see Yuji being adorable little Yuji, and got to see that was a very interesting combination of characters with Stella, you know, Richard, and Keith. And just seeing how good with kids that Keith is, that just made me smile right there. We didn't get to see anything with Alan and Meishu, but on top of that, we have a possibility of Alfred actually being an ally. That fucking blows my mind. Like, just seeing that interaction with Richard and Alfred was very... It was very surreal, you know? I didn't expect that. But it actually has me hoping that we can get Alfred as a sort of ally, because that would be freaking great. But unfortunately, now we have a problem. Gabriel. He wants to stain his hands with the blood of the underworld. We're probably going to be losing a lot of people I care about, aren't we? I don't like that. This Gabriel guy worries me. Oh dear. I wonder how everything is going to change now, because it seems like Primavera doesn't even know what's going on right now with Butler. And with him being watched around and not being able to send information to these, they have no idea what's going to happen. Ah, shit. I'm really worried. Yeah, this was a very good episode. I want to say that this was more positive and more good feeling. If you ignore the Gabriel stuff, like, this was a very good feels sort of episode, and it made me really happy to be able to experience that one. So I am definitely looking forward to seeing what else this definitely has in store for me. So if you all like this, be sure to let me know. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will definitely see all of you guys
in the next video.